To talk to us about the latest, we are joined by Jones Gondo, who is from Nedbank CIB. Jones, thank you so much for your time. Quite an interesting couple of weeks, but even far more interesting yesterday, especially when you look at what's going on in the Asia trade locally on the JSE. How's our markets reacting to some of the risk-off sentiment that we are seeing?
I think our equity market has also been hit equally with China because of our exposure to Tencent, which is a big fintech play in China. That sector has really been hit hard by regulatory impact of fines on Tencent. And so that is, it's a big weight within our JSE index. And so, we've seen the whole index down today, I think almost 2.7%.
So let's talk about, Naspers and Prosus. I mean, I noticed this morning that it continued to fall as well, and we'll put some charts on screen for the viewers to see the performance over the past couple of hours or so. But what's adding to that pressure outside of that announcement around the fine? Is it also having to do with the fact that some of the Chinese cities are being locked down?
Yeah, that has to also do with it. I think we thought the market expected that we're now post-pandemic, and the whole story of Shenzhen being shut down to a big industrial and economic hub in China. And I think the sentiment really is that we're going to see, obviously, global growth impacted by this if it extends and persists. China is a big trading partner for South Africa, and so those interlinkages mean that South African markets in general will start to also suffer, be it through supply chains or exports.
Any corporate news that caught your attention?
I think the last time we spoke, we were talking about the implementation of reforms in South Africa, and I think Spectrum this afternoon is an important market to look at. And it's not specific to company, but it's really the TMT sector. And I think if this auction really kicks off, it could be a buffer to all the negativity that we've been seeing in the market over the last 24 hours.
What was quite interesting, though, was that I'm not sure whether you joined into ABSA's results presentation, but the CEO mentioning there that they are, expecting a fifth wave as soon as next month. And I'm curious, though, from the conversations you're having with the Nedbank CIB, the research team, and some of the data flowing through, are you concerned that there could be further, waves unfolding as the months go by into the year?
Look, I think, we're all looking at the same numbers that, we could expect a fifth wave. But I think the jury is out about how, whether it's going to be as devastating as, say, the second and third waves. Omicron turned out to be a big wave, but without significant numbers of deaths. I think what we are going to look to is to the authorities to see, they did extend the state of disaster for another month, and see what their assessment is, and take it from there. We'll rather follow the science and not really get the market into a panic, because we need to see whether what really the market needs to focus on is that South Africa's coverage of vaccines increases, so that we spring back at least from these waves in a much better position, or that they don't last as long.
All right, well, back to market activity. At what point are you expecting the selling momentum to stop? And I suppose, to what extent are the activities in China, the COVID spikes, informing your view about emerging markets as a whole?
I think emerging markets, first of all, were spooked by the Russia-Ukraine crisis, and I think we were net beneficiary of that, with some flows really buffeting the currency. But I think the market will eventually capitulate. When you look at stocks that are starting to look quite cheap due to these sell-offs, that's when the market will really sort of come back. These risks there are many risks, from geopolitics to looking at what happens with trade. But I think where the market has gone is really to we can see that yield curves have steepened. And so people are hiding at the front end of curves or into safe haven. And if you just look at how gold did come down a bit, but it's really propped up, and people are sort of waiting for some, first of all, on the geopolitics, that there is some negotiation and ceasing of conflict and humanitarian crisis. And then also, I think it's just a view that, that we can now assess after a month what the impact really is on production and trade in emerging markets as a consequence. And the market can get back from panic into actually looking for value again.
Right. Before I let you go, a quick one and key events that you're paying attention to right now.
Look, I think the Fed is top priority. Monetary policy is still a big, important factor that explains, the shape of our curves. So the Fed, and then we'll be looking towards the response function of the SAB later in March. And finally, just looking at, how the geopolitics in Ukraine and Russia plays out, particularly after last night's engagements between the US and China.
Yeah.
I think a solution needs to be seen, and that's really primary for the markets at this stage.
All right, Jones, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. That is Jones Gondo, who is from Nedbank CIB. After the break, I'll be in conversation with Ian Williamson. He's the CEO of Old Mutual, and we'll be talking about their financial performance, so stay tuned.